The town of Winchester would like to share some important information regarding the 2020 elections. On July 6th of this year, Governor Baker signed new legislation, an act relative to voting options in response to COVID-19. This legislation outlines three options for voting in the fall 2020 elections: vote by mail, vote early in person, or vote on election day. There are options for both the state primary election and the presidential election. The state primary election will be held on September 1st, 2020. The election day hours are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The deadline to register to vote is August 22nd of 2020, and the vote by mail application deadline is August 26th at 5 p.m. For the presidential election, taking place on November 3rd, 2020, the election day hours are also 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The deadline to register to vote is October 24th, and the vote by mail application deadline is October 28th at 5 p.m. In a primary election, a voter who is not registered in a political party, unenrolled or commonly known as independent, must specify the party ballot type of choice on the application to vote by mail or in-person voting early on election day. We are unable to process applications for unenrolled or independent voters who do not select a party ballot type on their application. Unenrolled independent voters who select a party ballot type do not become registered in that party. They remain unenrolled independent voters. Voters who are registered in one of the four political parties must take that party ballot and are not given a choice of ballot type. It's a good idea to verify your party enrollment, or you may change your party enrollment prior to deadline to register to vote and before applying for a mail-in ballot. What you'll need to know on election day. All elections are held at the same four school gyms: Precinct 1 and 2 at the Morocco School, Precincts 3 and 4 at the McCall Middle School, Precincts 5 and 6 at the Vincent Owen School, and Precincts 7 and 8 will vote at the Lynch School. You'll need to consider a few things before you come to the polls on election day. First, wear a face covering. Second, bring a pen if you don't want to borrow one. A blue or a black ink Sharpie or a paper mate flare will do very well. Third, bring a clipboard or book to mark your ballot on if you don't want to use a voting booth. Fourth, bring an ID. In some cases, voters will be required to show an ID. Fifth, don't touch your face while at the polling location. Sixth, make sure you're maintaining social distancing by keeping 6 feet away from anyone not from your household. And finally, keep your ballot dry and free from hand sanitizers to avoid tabulator issues. All registered voters qualify to vote by mail in the fall 2020 elections. Application postcards have been mailed to all registered voters at their mailing address. It's a good idea to apply early to allow ample time for processing your application and for the Postal Service to deliver your ballot to you. If you are concerned about applying too early, please note that voters can hold on to their ballot and return it during the week prior to the election. Voters who receive a vote-by-mail ballot but do not return it prior to Election Day may appear to vote in person on Election Day to cast a ballot. Any voter who has returned a vote-by-mail ballot or voted early in person cannot vote on Election Day. Applications can be returned by mail, postage is prepaid on the postcard application mailed to you, or scanned and emailed to townclerk@winchester.us. Voters who have applied for a vote-by-mail ballot may track the status of their application as well as their ballot status. Please note that we anticipate a large volume of applications, and request that you allow at least 2 weeks before checking the status of your application, and allow for a minimum of 10 days to receive your ballot from the status date of mailing. Please do not contact the town clerk's office to check on your status until the recommended amount of time listed above has passed. Mailed ballots include a postage prepaid return ballot envelope that is addressed to the town clerk's office. You may return your ballot by mail, but please do not leave your voted ballot outside of Town Hall in the drop boxes for general office work for other departments. There will be red drop boxes at the front door of Town Hall for ballot drop-off. Ballots cannot be returned to the polling location on Election Day. They must be returned to the town clerk's office for processing before they are delivered by the town clerk's staff to the polls to be cast on Election Day. Voters who receive a vote-by-mail ballot but do not return it prior to Election Day may appear to vote in person and cast a ballot on Election Day. Any voter that has returned a vote-by-mail ballot or voted early in person is not permitted to appear to vote in person on Election Day. Remember these deadlines in order for your ballot to be returned and counted. For the primary election, all ballots must be received at Town Hall by 8 p.m. on September 1st. For the November election, ballots dropped off in the red drop boxes at the front entrance of Town Hall must be returned by not later than 8 p.m. on November 3rd. Ballots returned by mail must be postmarked by November 3rd and received by the town clerk by 5 p.m. on November 6th. Please note that delivery services from the post office are not always consistent and can range from 3 to 11 days. We highly recommend you return your ballot in the red drop box outside the front entrance to Town Hall not later than 8 p.m. on Election Day to ensure it arrives back to us in time to count. If you're worried about large crowds on Election Day, early voting in person will be available for the fall 2020 elections. An application is not required to vote early in person. You just show up and vote. For the state primary election, the early voting in person period is August 22nd to August 28th at Town Hall. The specific dates and times are Saturday, August 22nd from 8 a.m. to noon, Sunday, August 23rd, 8 a.m. to noon, Monday the 24th, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday, August 25th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Wednesday, August 26th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Thursday the 27th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and finally Friday, August 28th from 8 a.m. to noon. Early voting in person for the presidential election will be held at Winchester Town Hall on the first floor, October 17th through 30th. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and noon. Mondays, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Fridays, 8 a.m. to noon. Please note that no more than 5 voters will be allowed in Town Hall to vote early at all times. Here are some frequently asked questions and answers for early voting by mail or in person. Question 1. If I applied for a vote-by-mail ballot, can I appear to vote in person at an early voting site or at the polls on Election Day? The answer? If your vote-by-mail ballot has not been received back to the town clerk's office, then yes, you may still appear to vote in person at the polls on Election Day. These voters will be required to complete additional paperwork and will need to show an ID. Should your mail-in ballot be received after you voted early in person or at the polls on Election Day, that ballot will be rejected and will not be counted. If a vote-by-mail ballot has already been received back by the town clerk's office, then you may not appear to vote in person on Election Day. A returned vote-by-mail ballot is considered cast, and you will not be eligible to vote by mail early in person or in person at the polls on Election Day. Question 2. If I vote early in person, can I appear to vote in person at the polls on Election Day? The answer? No. If you appeared to vote early in person, your ballot will be considered cast, and you will not be eligible to vote by mail or in person at the polls on Election Day. Voting in person at the polls after submitting an early ballot is prohibited. Question 3. When and how is an early voter's ballot cast? The answer? All vote-by-mail and early voting in-person ballots will be opened and inserted into a tabulator before Election Day or fed through the tabulators at the polls on Election Day. These ballots will be kept secured, locked, and unexamined until the polls are closed on Election Day. For more information on the 2020 elections, visit the Town Clerk's page on winchester.us.